What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. Tonight it is September 26th. We have a waiver wire run going on this evening. So we're just going to hang out live here, answer any questions you guys may have for me on the waiver wire. I'm going to try and go over any news blurbs and just injury reports and practice reports from the things that we do have. But hang tight. If you guys do have questions, please fire them up in the comments, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Good evening to Aiden. Hope you're doing well. We're going to hop into a screen share here, and I do have everything on thefantasyfellowship.com. There's a link in the description of this video if you guys want to follow the waiver wire report. There's a bunch of injuries that we're watching. Unfortunately, Mike Williams is done for the year. So I think the primary guy that most people are probably looking for on the waiver wire is it's probably Josh Palmer. Good evening to Daniel. Good evening to Brian, man. I've seen Brian in the comments a couple times. So good evening to you, Brian. Hope we're doing well. And I just want to kind of double check here and see who the top added players over here on ESPN are. This is kind of last week's numbers, but Jerome Ford, highly owned here. Josh Reynolds, highly owned here. I thought Tutu Atwell played pretty good last night. He actually looked really, really interesting. And he's now had some really solid games. I mean, he's ranked wide receiver 14 in full PPR, 17, 15, and 17, 8, 9, and 9 targets. Like Tutu Atwell looks pretty good here, guys. Quick trade question. Would you trade Pickens, Judy, and Kmet for Hopkins, Dell, and Ertz? League has a 4.4 yard catch bonus. I'll probably take the Hopkins, Dell, and Ertz side. I'm not really super excited about either side here, honestly. I think Ertz and Kmet are kind of a wash. Pickens and Judy versus Hopkins and Dell. I mean, Dell's looking really, really good right now. He's probably the best receiver of the group. I'm going to lean slightly Hopkins, Dell, but I am concerned about Hopkins and what the receivers, I guess the quarterback situation over there, it is slightly concerning. So I'm going to lean Hopkins, Dell, and Ertz. A-Chain for Dylan, yes. I think so on the fantasyfellowship.com in my waiver wire section here. I think so. I'm starting to do this new little column here that just says favorite ads towards the top of the page. And these guys are listed in order that I would like to add them by position. I think I need to start doing that, like top drops or guys that I would drop here. And I think AJ Dillon's one of them. The fact that we had 2 cracks at AJ Dillon starting with no Aaron Jones, and he came up pretty bad in both games, doesn't look good. He might be a guy that we add in the future if Jones were to go down again or something like that. But I think A-Chain over Dylan is a no-brainer to me, Brian. I would do it. Daniel says he lost Mike, but I'm just trying for A-Chain, thinking Mike. So like I really like A-Chain. We're never gonna see a 50-point game like that. I would be shocked if we did see another 53-point game. You also have Raheem Mostert is still healthy. You still have the potential for Salvin Ahmed to come back, and you still have the potential for Jeff Wilson to come back. So I do want to pump the brakes on A-Chain just a little bit. I do want to put him on my team. I don't know if I'm going to start him against Buffalo Bills. Kind of want to see what that looks like going forward, but A-Chain is a priority pickup this week. Good evening to Harris. Hope you're doing well. Same to Ryan. Good evening as well. Start Anthony Rich over T-Law. That has been pretty yeah, I saw some stats on Trevor, and he just he's not very efficient right now in terms of, I guess, fantasy points here. We're looking at Trevor Lawrence down here averaging about 13.8 points per game, which is just not cutting it. Anthony Richardson, his averages have been pretty nice. I know he missed last weekend, but 20 and 17. I think you got to roll with Richardson this weekend. ESPN has him projected for 20 points. They have Lawrence projected for about 15.8. I am rolling with Lawrence. And yeah, we got to pour one out for Big Mike, man. We might not see him back in our fantasy lineups anytime soon. It's tough for these guys to come back off knee injuries like that. We're going to talk about Josh Palmer tonight, though. Yep, I'm going Anthony Richardson over Trevor Lawrence, guys. Would you rather pick up Geno Smith and play him instead of Fields, or pick up a wide receiver on the Chargers as a replacement for Mike Williams PPR? Would you rather pick up Geno Smith and play him? Geno's matchup this weekend against the Giants is pretty nice. I mean, Fields has been atrocious. I know he has salvaged it with a touchdown the last few weeks. It's a really, really good spot here against the Broncos. I think I would give him one more chance to succeed. I want to see here. I believe the Seahawks are on bye next week. So they're on bye next week, Harris. Like, you might be able to get him again if you needed him, but I think because of the matchup against the Broncos, I'm going to give Justin Fields one more start, and I would go pick up that wide receiver for Mike Williams. And yeah, so the thing with Laporta is I'm assuming he's owned. Let me go over here to ESPN. Let's go by percent rostered. So Laporta right now, he's about 63.6% rostered. I need to put him on the list because typically my cutoff is 70%. Anybody above 70%, I just assume you're not going to get him. So I will add Sam Laporta to that list. He would be the priority add here. I guess these guys are more just deeper stashes, but Laporta, I mean, rest of season, he's a top 5, top 10 tight end. So I will say Laporta is probably one of the best rookie tight ends that we've seen in a while. So I do have him as my number 1 player here. I will add Laporta to that top spot here. So if you're playing in a 10 or 12 man league and Laporta is available, he's startable, guys. He is totally startable. Good evening to Justin. Can you talk about Leonard Fournette? That's a great. Justin and I were talking about Leonard Fournette earlier today on the side, and Leonard Fournette, man, the fact that he's still not with the team, I know he worked out for a couple teams, like in August. I think it's a matter of time, man. If Leonard Fournette signs with the Bengals, I wouldn't be surprised. There might be another injury, hopefully not, a big Nick Chubb injury like that. But I do think there's going to be a time where Leonard Fournette gets signed relatively soon. The Ravens seem to be dropping running backs left and right. I know they like what they got, but I think Leonard Fournette could be a piece here that gets signed pretty quickly. And I mean, I don't know where his conditioning and his whatnot is, but I would bank on Leonard Fournette being a guy that we maybe look at some point. So if you're playing in a deeper league, for me, my leagues are pretty deep. I play in 12-man leagues, and honestly, the running backs out there aren't very good looking. So if you guys play in 12-man leagues that are deeper stashes, like Leonard Fournette, one of my favorite things to do, especially because I play in 12-man leagues, I like to be a week ahead and pick up players on the waiver wire. So like Sunday morning, my brother called me and he's like, I moved so-and-so to the IR, have opening spot. And he needed, like, he's good at running back. I'm like, okay, let's add a receiver. And he goes, Josh Palmer. And I'm like, sure, let's add Josh Palmer just in case anything happens. And sure enough, something happened to Josh Palmer. So it's always good to be thinking a week ahead, especially these handcuff type players. Ryan says Pitt or New Orleans defense. I think the Texans scare me enough, whereas Tampa Bay's offense doesn't really scare me. I think the Saints have had their number for a handful of seasons, even with Tom Brady being the quarterback. So I'm going to lean New Orleans, and I do think that game is in New Orleans. Let me double check that for us here. Where is that game? Tampa Bay. Yeah, New Orleans at home against Tampa Bay. I'm going to lean with New Orleans there, Ryan. What kicker? Stay with Cowboys or 49ers? I mean, I think they're both like top 5 kickers right now, right? So I do have a little site that I like to use, guys. It's called fftoday.com. If you hit the stats tab, you can scroll on down here. You can see fantasy points allowed to the kicker position. So I just want to see who's allowing the most points right now. The 49ers are playing against the Cardinals. It looks like the Cardinals, where are they? The Cardinals ranked 13th here. They're giving up about 8.3 points per game. The Cowboys going up against the New England Patriots. Patriots are probably a little bit stingier. Why can't I read them? They're ranked 16th. So it's both decent matchups this week. I think I trust the 49ers offense a little bit more. I'm going to say Jake Moody. Drop Gibson, Miller, Gainwell, or Kelly. I want to hold out hope. I want to hold out for Antonio Gibson. It looked really like the usage for Antonio Gibson actually looked pretty dang good last weekend. I do want to pull up. I'm going to pull something up here for you guys. Where is my numbers? So PFF, if you guys remember, I used to pull up the charts here. They don't have them anymore, unfortunately. You have to pay for them now. And do I have the Commanders on here? Let's see, where are these? Here we go. All right, let's go to the Commanders. So the Commanders actually, when they get in losing games, it's going to be a Gibson game. He had 33 snaps to Brian Robinson's 20. He ran 28 routes, 4 targets, and 2 carries. If he didn't fumble the ball, he might have had even more opportunities. It was a tough matchup, yes, but in games where the Commanders are supposed to lose, I do like Gibson. So I don't mind holding on to Gibson. I think for sure you're holding on to Miller. You're for sure holding on to Gainwell. So it's between Gibson and Kelly for me. I think with the Chargers having a bye next week, I'm okay with maybe letting Kelly go. Because I do want to hold out hope for Gibson. I know he's a decent running back. He's just had trouble holding on to the ball. So it's between Gibson and Kelly. If you're not going to use Kelly this weekend, I think it's Kelly. Would you rather have Palmer over A-Chain 0.5 PPR? If you have need at receiver, you got to go with Palmer. If Palmer slots in as like your number 4 receiver, where like you could actually see him as your flex, I think you got to go Palmer. If you need A-Chain to be your running back 2 or 3, then that makes sense to grab A-Chain. But I'm thinking Palmer is a guy that I personally really like. I thought he filled in pretty nicely for Keenan Allen last season. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. So Keenan Allen missed a decent chunk of games last year. He only played 10 games. I believe he got hurt week 1, played week 7, got hurt again. So he basically was out from weeks 2 through 10. And let's go ahead and see what Josh Palmer did during those weeks. I know Palmer got kind of dinged up a little bit in those games too, but week 2 against Kansas City, he gets 13 points, then 15, a 3 and a 5 are duds, but 14, 18, 7, 30. Like he played pretty well, decent enough in this stretch. And I think this year, having more experience, personally, I think Josh Palmer could be a wide receiver 3 flex the rest of the way. I still don't know if A-Chain can be a running back too. I know he had a really good game, but it was a complete blowout against the Broncos and just everything kind of hit. So personally, I think Palmer's got more value, and I think I would start him this weekend. I don't know if I would start A-Chain this weekend. Palmer or Quentin Johnston. I think if you need a guy to start right now, it's Palmer. If you got patience and you just want to babysit somebody, it's Quentin Johnston. Now, Johnston's going to be the number 3 wide receiver. He's going to be 3rd in snaps and 3rd in targets most often. He is a high-profile first-round rookie, but to me, Palmer's a little bit of a proven veteran. Dude caught 72 passes last year. Like this could be a really nice free agent addition for you guys. I think it's Josh Palmer. Gully says, I have so many people wanting Brian Robinson Jr. from me for a trade. I need help. So many good options for receivers. I can cook up a trade. I tend to want to hold on to Brian Robinson. It's hard to find a player that can do what Brian Robinson does. I know he only had 10 carries last weekend, but he still put up a decent amount of fantasy points. If you're not using Brian Robinson and say he's on your bench as your RB3 or 4, I think I'm holding on to him. If he's my RB3, I'm holding on to him. If he's my RB4, I might be okay with upgrading wide receiver. But for me, I only want to make a trade if I need to make a trade. Otherwise, I'm trying to hold on to running back talent. I like Quentin Johnston, man, but they honestly they haven't really let him do much. So Johnston only ran 13 routes in this game. He was the clear wide receiver 3. He did come in for Mike Williams when he got hurt. I'm open to Quentin Johnston being a decent player, but he's going to be more his spike weeks are going to be pretty low floors, pretty high ceilings. I think Josh Palmer's the guy that I'm more comfortable leaving in my lineups each week. Yeah, and I think Charlene, good evening. If you guys can grab Charbonnet on your waiver wires, I just want to see what his rostership looks like. I believe he's probably high owned, but he's only 40% rostered. I think Charbonnet is a really good player. We have seen Kenneth Walker kind of get hurt throughout his career so far. Charbonnet, man, he looked really good running the ball the last couple weeks. I know he's a good pass catcher. This is the guy that I totally want stashed on my bench. And oh my goodness, Justin. Melvin Gordon might start. They're still really nervous to even use Melvin Gordon. I actually think if you're looking for a Ravens running back and you have room to stash, or if you play Dynasty, the guy you're looking for is Keaton Mitchell. He's on IR right now. He comes back week 5, but they like this guy. And honestly, I think he's probably better than everybody on the roster above him. He might be a stash at some point. So if you play in Dynasty or deeper leagues, I like Keaton Mitchell kind of a lot. CJ Stroud, Richardson, Purdy, or Love for QB2s. Please rank them. All right, let's look at those QBs. I mean, I think if Richardson plays, like that's the guy. I'm assuming you have a better QB above these, but I'm not sure. Let me look here. I mean, I think Richardson's the guy. I think Purdy's probably the 2. I would say Love the 3 and Stroud the 4 if I had to rank them again. So Richardson, Purdy, Love, CJ Stroud. That's probably what I would do. In terms of projections here on ESPN, they have Richardson as the highest guy. They do have Brock Purdy in here above Jordan Love. And then it is CJ Stroud. So it's pretty close. I'm thinking Richardson and Purdy are your top 2 options. Jesse G, you dirty dog. What's going on, Jesse? Good evening, sir. Congratulations on your recent wedding the other night. Tank Dell or Devon A-Chain, first waiver priority. That's going to come down to, I mean, if you really, really, really needed a running back, say you only had like 2 guys that you felt confident starting and like you want to prioritize, if you wanted to prioritize A-Chain as that guy that you could potentially use as RB2 flex, I think that makes a lot of sense. But like Tank Dell, I think Tank Dell is a locked in wide receiver 3 going forward, especially in a full PPR league. Like Tank Dell is showing us everything that we want in a wide receiver that we could trust. He is running almost all the routes on the CJ Stroud dropbacks. He's led the team in targets for 2 straight weeks, and he's a monster when he gets the ball in his hands. And I know he's small. There's always, injury risk for these smaller guys here. But at the moment right now, it does look like Tank Dell is a must-start play. I don't know if A-Chain's a must-start. He's probably going to need, I think for A-Chain's full value to be unlocked, we're going to need a Mostert injury. But the thing that also worries me is like they liked Salvin Ahmed when he was healthy, and we know they like Jeff Wilson. So it's a little bit more murkier situation. I think A-Chain's really, really good. But I don't know if I'm comfortable starting him in my lineup right away. I think I need to see more. Whereas I think right now with Tank Dell, I've seen enough through 3 weeks that I think I think I'm going Tank Dell, but if you have 4 receivers that you like better than Tank Dell, go get A-Chain because he's a little bit more value. He could be a guy that we look at down the season that gets a lot of work here. So both great ads. I think Tank Dell's got a little bit more startability right now. Order these for pickup. Palmer, Thielen, Tutu, and Tank Dell. Not non-PPR. Okay, so that's a little bit different. Non-PPR, it's probably Thielen because he's like the true number 1 here. I do think Thielen's connection with Andy Dalton wasn't much of a surprise to me. I do worry about him kind of coming back with Bryce Young. Tutu Atwell, of course, you have to worry about what happens with Cooper Kupp, but Atwell's been pretty steady, and I think he has a role when Kupp returns. And then honestly, I think Tank Dell's got a really good upside as well. So these guys are all like in the same tier of like wide receiver 3 in a non-PPR league. I'm going to go with the guy that I think is going to catch the most touchdowns, and that's probably Josh Palmer. He's going to be on the field a ton as the wide receiver 2 in the Chargers offense. We've seen Josh Palmer with Herbert last year. He did catch 72 passes and 3 touchdowns. He's already got 1 touchdown through 3 games here. So I think in a non-PPR league, it's going to be Palmer. I like Adam Thielen, but I think I'm going to go Dell, Thielen, and then Tutu. So Palmer, Dell, Thielen, Tutu is how I would do it. Jesse says, give me your best fast food chicken sandwich. Oh my goodness. Best fast food chicken sandwich. I think most people would probably say Chick-fil-A. I think Chick-fil-A is okay. I don't know if anyone's got Hardee's near them, but Hardee's makes a pretty dang good chicken sandwich. Otherwise, if I had one more, I do like Portillo's. Portillo's has a good chicken sandwich. I know that's more of a regional Midwest thing, but I will say, I'm going to say Hardee's as my favorite chicken sandwich, man. They have good chicken tenders, dude. Brian says, pick one. Elijah Moore, Addison, Dotson, Watson if healthy at flex PPR. So, I mean, these are more start sit questions. I'd like to save those for tomorrow night or Thursday if we can. It's Tuesday night, so that's more of a waiver wire thing, Brian. But it's Christian Watson if he plays, but I get it. The hamstring and things are a little bit concerning. I think Dotson needs to prove more to us. I do think Jordan Addison, though, is starting to show that he is probably a guy that I want in my lineup. I do want to just see what Addison did week 3 here. So he kind of had, 8 targets, 6 for 52. To me, this is Addison as being the guy that I think makes the most sense. Kirk Cousins is having a hell of a year so far through 3 games. I would rank them Addison, Moore, Watson, Dotson. And yeah, guys, hit that like button. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, man. We can almost taste it. I think we're at like 987. So if y'all are new, definitely subscribe. It helps the channel grow. This is a free channel too, by the way, guys. So any subscription, like, all that stuff helps me, helps the channel grow. Good evening over there on Twitch, Just Killer. Good evening, my man. Charlene says Pat's defense and Matt Gay kicker gave me a total of 49 points. All right, yeah, Matt Gay was on fire, and Pat's defense is good. Like, we already know they're good, but basically any team going up against the Jets, as long as Zach Wilson's quarterback, I think we're going to be streaming that defense. So I think that's something we definitely want to target going forward. What did you think of week 3? So 3 weeks in, I thought week 3 felt about right. Like we're starting to get more data points and things are starting to make sense. Typically, like if you have a fantasy player and they have not hit yet, like they probably hit week 3, and we're going to be holding out hope for these guys to hit on week 4. But it's starting to take form. I think we have some good feelings on which teams we want to target as far as like, oh, I'm playing this quarterback against this bad defense. So things are starting to make sense, which feels good. I still want to see Leonard Fournette sign somewhere. I think that's going to be interesting. But for the most part, I'm sick of the injuries, man. I'm sick of the injuries already. I think this week we came out okay. I think Derek Carr was the only casualty for a little bit here, but that's nothing too concerning. And I'm just hoping we get a little bit healthier here. But I thought week 3 felt pretty good. I thought scoring was up the last 2 weeks. So it looks like we're starting to get better football too. Like the quality of the football is improving. I thought week 1 was really, really bad. Week 3, I thought it was pretty good. All right, Charlene's 3-0, absolutely killing it. Perfect. Okay. Lots of depth at RB with Mixon, Stevenson, White, Cook. I can trade any of these guys probably. I think so. I think I'm trying to trade Rashad White if I can. I think James Cook is looking pretty dang good. I really like his role in that offense. So Cook's a big fan for me. It's probably Rashad White that I would try and move out. Yep, that's perfect. Me and Jesse were thinking the same thing. If someone wants Rashad White and you can get, I don't know if you're going to get a wide receiver too, but like if I could go trade Rashad White for Tank Dell, like I might do it. Like I might do it. Like Texans have a really nice schedule the rest of the way. Otherwise, I'm just going to shout out a couple more receivers here that might make sense to potentially grab and swap out Rashad White. These are probably buy low guys, but if you can go ahead and get a T. Higgins, if you can get a Chris Godwin, if you can get a Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, like names like that, I think like these guys are probably underperforming right now, but they could finish, as top end receivers. Otherwise, a guy like Marquise Brown makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people aren't excited about the Cardinals. I would probably go looking to see if I can upgrade Rashad White. Daniel says, is Kelly done? Why he was better with Eckler active? He is startable this week after Eckler's back. Should we drop him? In a deeper league, I kind of want to hold on to Kelly, as a handcuff, because if Eckler gets hurt again, we're going to be talking about him on the waiver wire. He has not looked good though in 2 straight games. I thought the Tennessee game was predictable for him to not look good. I was slightly surprised that he looked not very good against the Vikings because we're not really, scared of the Vikings. I'm looking for Josh Kelly right now. But 2 duds, and we both started him in that game. 11 for 12 is not acceptable. 1 reception for 5 yards. I think the Raiders matchup is pretty good on paper. I would only start him if Eckler's out. I personally, I don't want to play him just because we've seen 2 really bad games and 2, like, these are really low floors. So I personally, I wouldn't be opposed to cutting bait with him. He's on bye next weekend, so it's kind of like a free roster spot for the next 2 weeks. The Chargers are probably not going to be giving him the keys. If Eckler were to go down, they're probably going to use a committee. A lot of people want Brian Robinson Jr. If you're going to trade Brian Robinson Jr., like, you deserve, like, Brian Robinson right now is RB8. So if you're trading away a running back 1 right now, I don't care where you drafted him. I want the value for what he is. Like, you should be going after a Michael Pittman Jr. You should be going after, you can maybe try and buy a Devonta Smith. You can maybe try and go buy, a guy like Jacoby Myers looks pretty good right now. You should be able to you should trade Brian Robinson for a high profile name, I think. Amari Cooper, Devonta Smith, D Hop. You can get Keenan. Okay. Definitely go talk to the Devonta Smith guys, the Cooper, T Higgins. I don't know if I want D Hop. I don't know what it's going to cost to get Keenan Allen, but like, Keenan Allen might be the wide receiver 1 this year. I've been talking to about 5 different league mates for a trade right now. Everyone likes B-Rob. Again, I mean, if you can get Mike Evans, if you can get Debo, Michael Pittman Jr., like, you should be getting a top end guy. Yeah, you should be getting a top end receiver here. Yeah. What about Marquise Brown? I don't remember what the question was, Harris. If you can get Marquise Brown off the waiver wire, I would do so. Now, I was hoping to not talk about it too much this early, but we're going to see Kyler Murray at some point here, and that could be really nice for the Cardinals guys. Whether it's James Conner, Marquise Brown, Rondale Moore, Zach Ertz, Trey McBride. There's going to be some upside value coming, I think, for these Cardinal skill players if and when Kyler Murray returns. I thought I saw something on his TikTok or something like that where he just posted soon. As we record this, it's September 26th. There's a decent chance that maybe, week 6, week 7, maybe he rolls around and he's ready to go. So I personally, of all the names that you mentioned earlier, Harris, I think Marquise Brown is the profile that I'm looking for. So I would go with Marquise Brown. Thank you, Gullies. I love it. That's this is why we do it, man. Comments like this, I love helping people, and this is what we do, man. We just talk fantasy football. We like the banter back and forth in the comments, and I just love being able to help you guys. And you guys give me energy, so it's fun. Should Kenneth Gainwell be owned? Yes. The Eagles are. It seems like the Eagles have figured out a system. Like, they want to use Swift and they also want to use Gainwell. Now, Swift and Gainwell are both playing pretty well. Swift obviously has a little bit more explosiveness to his game, whereas Kenneth Gainwell has a little bit more power. And it looks like they kind of like him in the shorter situations. And it seems like the Eagles are completely fine with making sure that Swift has like a touch limit where he doesn't get the ball too many times. I think week 2 was kind of out of necessity, but this game against the Buccaneers last night, they made sure that they got Gainwell enough carries in the 4th quarter. So we've seen Swift get hurt often. I think every year of his career, he's missed 3, 4, 5 games. So Gainwell should be owned. He's worth a stash. And in games where look at last night, in games where the Eagles are like heavy favorites to win the game, I do think Kenneth Gainwell could be a low-end RB2 flex. Now, obviously, again, Swift is still the guy. Didn't really equate to great numbers last night for Gainwell, but this was a tougher matchup against, Tampa Bay kind of on paper. There might be some better matchups coming for Gainwell. So hold on to Gainwell. Got more likes than views. Interesting. That's pretty crazy. Who would you prioritize first between Devin A-Chain and Joshua Palmer in Septimus? Okay. So we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, and this appears to be like the number one debate for most people. Now, it ultimately depends on your roster construction. I think if you're a guy that needs a wide receiver 3 flex, I think Palmer can he can hang in there as your starter for pretty much any week that he's healthy. We love the Chargers offense. It's a really good high volume passing offense. And we've seen Josh Palmer excel as the number 2, number 3 receiver last year. I mean, the dude had 72 catches. I think he can play okay. He's not an elite prospect by any means, but he can hang. It's kind of like starting like, to me, it's like whipping out Alan Lazard, with Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. Like it's probably going to be pretty decent. So I do like Josh Palmer quite a bit. But hey, I have a league in my most important league. I have Dameon Pierce and David Montgomery as my top 2 running backs, and I have good receivers. So like I would go ahead and get A-Chain here. It makes more sense. So if you need, to maybe get a player that could be your RB3, you go with A-Chain. If you need a receiver 3, you go with Palmer. And if I had to choose one, say I was equal, at balanced with running back and wide receiver, I think I'm going to lean Palmer. I think he's more startable each week, and I'm still unsure about how the Dolphins want to use all those backs. Should I add Tank Dell if I have Nico Collins and Dameon Pierce? Probably. In a full PPR, yeah, like I still would do it, and we can just play the matchups with Dameon Pierce and Nico Collins. We could also try and just add him and try and get some trade ammo, something like that. But Tank Dell needs to be owned, and especially in full PPR. What's your favorite college team? So I went to UW Milwaukee. Didn't really have a competitive team here, but I did get to see some really good basketball teams. The Panthers did go to the final, or they went to the Big Dance one year, and they had some competitive teams with Butler. So Panthers are fun. The Badgers, just being from Wisconsin, they're on the list. But my team, if I had to root for college, basketball or football, it's going to be the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. It was my dad's favorite team growing up, and I just continued watching them. So I love Georgia Tech. I got a Calvin Johnson jersey somewhere and a couple other ones. So fun question, Walker. It would be Georgia Tech, and there's some decent NFL players from Georgia Tech. I'm trying to package Rachaad White and Courtland Sutton for a better running back. Can you give me some RBs to target, please and thank you? I'm trying to package Rachaad White, Courtland Sutton for a better running back. Can you give me some RBs to target? So White plus Sutton should yield you a pretty dang good running back. Like, try and go talk to the Travis Etienne owner. I wouldn't be opposed to talking to James Cook owner. You can maybe try and buy low on Barkley or Aaron Jones. You can probably buy like a really nice top 10, top 12 running back here. So I like ETN quite a bit for you. You can maybe ask about Bijan. I don't know if you're going to do it, but you can ask. But I think ETN, Cook, maybe Ramondre, maybe Barkley, names like that. Like, you can maybe go try and get Josh Jacobs, who I know has not been great, but like big days are coming. Like, they've had bad games, and he gets 9, 9, and 11. I can see Josh Jacobs turning around here. Marquise Brown or Tank Dell non-PPR. I'm going to go Tank Dell. And oh, baby, Ron, thank you so much, man. This is fantastic. Thank you so much for the super chat. This is the second super chat the fellowship's ever got, so this is pretty cool here. Ron says, a little token of my appreciation. Your advice this past week with Jalen Warren over my other options helped just lift me past my opponent for the win. Wow. So like, you guys have no idea. I get so many start sit questions like nonstop throughout the week. TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, Discord, it's nonstop. And sometimes I sit there on a Sunday and I'm thinking about, oh my God, did I tell this person not to play them? Did I tell them to play Jalen Warren over Raheem Mostert, stuff like that. And, sometimes we're going to get some stuff wrong, but I guess we helped Ron get one right today. So I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Ron. And Ron's been a good listener to the show the last few years. I think maybe this is his second or third season hanging out with us on the stream. So I appreciate you, Ron. Thank you so much for the super chat. This is it means a lot to me, guys. This is a lot of fun for me to do. And the fact that like we're this close to getting monetized on YouTube is pretty sweet. So I really appreciate it, Ron. And it's an honor to help you guys with your questions. Thank you so much, Ron. Drew says, is it against the consensus to believe that A-Chain is a sell high at this moment, or is he every week flex going forward with major upside? So I've been contemplating that thought as well, Drew. It's hard to say. I think in a redraft league, it depends on who you can get. Honestly, like if you have a person that really wants him and they're willing to give me, a top 10, top 12 talent that I feel good about, I'm open to selling high to him. I It's a complete shot in the dark. We really like the Dolphins running game. We really like the Dolphins offense. The thing that just makes me a little bit nervous is week 2, Salvin Ahmed was running ahead of A-Chain before he got hurt. So A-Chain was kind of just thrust into their week 3 and he took off. He ran with it. It might be his RB2 spot, but I know for sure they're going to continue to give Raheem Mostert the volume of work, and A-Chain's going to kind of mix in as a change of pace back. Personally, I don't think A-Chain is a guy that can handle 20 touches in a game. I think he's somewhat of a limited role player where if they can get him 10 to 12 carries and 3 or 4 catches, that's probably the most that they want to give to him. So I don't think if Raheem Mostert goes down, I don't think it's like, oh my God, A-Chain is going to get 20, 25 touches. So to me, I think his ceiling is probably like a RB2 starter, like a flex starter. So like if you can flip him for a running back 1, I'm probably going to do it. And it really depends on who the RB2 is. So like I think you kind of have it right here. RB2 flex feels about right. I just don't know about the major upside, especially with Jeff Wilson potentially coming back. Like we haven't heard anything on Jeff Wilson, but I do think we're going to see him at some point this year. So I like A-Chain, but man, if you could sell him for a haul, you definitely got to consider it. I traded K. Walker and Nico for Olave and Derrick Henry. I mean, Olave over Nico is a huge win, and I think right now Henry versus Walker, I think most people probably would take Henry, so this is kind of like an even deal here. Now, I do think the Titans have been pretty murky on offense the last couple weeks, so hopefully that's the floor here. It was pretty brutal for our guy Derrick Henry and basically the entire Titans team this last week, so hopefully this is the bottom of it, but I do think it's pretty even. Henry should be fine long term here, so I'm probably taking the Olave Henry side just because I think Olave is a lot better than Nico. Who would you start? I would drop one of them: Luke Musgrave, tight end Johnson, or Otten. We're gonna start. Who would you drop? Who would you start? I'm starting Musgrave, and I'm gonna drop Otten. I guess I would rather have Juwan. Love you, Ron. Love you, man. Thank you so much. Just love helping you guys. It's a lot of fun for me. How much fab would you pay for Palmer? Again, it kind of depends on your situation. Now, I do think with Palmer, I value him as a low end wide receiver 3 starter. So for me, that in a full PPR league, that's 10 to 12 points. So when I see that number of 10 to 12 points per game, again, he averaged 10 points per game last year for the Chargers in full PPR format. So I kind of think that I think the $15 bid is probably the lowest that you might have a chance at getting him. I wouldn't want to go that much higher. $15 to $20 is probably the sweet spot. But you got to be careful because you kind of got to know your other players and your other league mates. Because if you have a guy that's like, if he just lost Mike Williams and he's got all his dollars left, he might be very aggressive and end up, spending $30, $34, whatever it is, right? So I think to put out an honest bid, it's probably got to be around the $15 to $20 range, and you got to just think that you're buying a wide receiver 3 flex for the rest of the season. But yeah, I probably wouldn't want to go much more than that because it still is week 4. It's a long haul here. We're probably going to get a couple more potential guys that we look for in the waiver wire like that. So do I pick up a QB to start over T-Law? He's been really letting me down. I mean, if you need to, if any of these guys are available here, Randy, I absolutely love Brock Purdy's schedule. I know they have the Cowboys coming up soon, but the 49ers offense, they're putting up touchdowns left and right. Somehow the Jordan Love Packers are putting up touchdowns, and he's gotten at least 2 each week. So Love's interesting. I wouldn't mind starting Purdy over Trevor Lawrence this weekend. I think the fantasy points per game are not too bad for Atlanta against QBs. Let's take a look at that real quick. Let's see. So fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position. The Atlanta Falcons, they're ranked 12th here. They give up about 15.3. The Arizona Cardinals, they do give up about 20. So, like, again, this one's in San Francisco. 49ers are 14-point favorites. I wouldn't be opposed to playing Purdy if you were skittish on Lawrence. All right. Good luck, my man. Enjoy your evening watching your favorite team, dude. Love it. I was considering trying to sell Achan to the Mostert owner in my league as insurance. Is Achan in London for Ridley and Akers a realistic trade? I mean, I think you're upgrading heavily with Ridley over London. Maybe not heavily, but I think a lot of people still like Ridley as a top 15, top 20 receiver. London, boom bust, you know what it is. Akers versus Achan. I think I want Achan long term here, so this seems like a fair deal here. I do think that, like, one, Achan probably isn't starting in your roster if this is how this is looking, and you're upgrading Ridley over London, and I don't hate it, and I also don't mind. I don't mind, waiting and see what Akers has, because I still think Akers has something to show. We know Madison has not looked good. He did look good week 3, but there's a chance Akers could eat into that workload there. So I don't hate it. If Achan's not starting for you and London is, you're technically upgrading London over Ridley, and you get another running back to babysit. So I don't hate it there, Drew. I think it's interesting. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, I think you're probably looking at that $15 to $20 range. That would probably make sense. You can maybe, again, if you know your league mates and they're not high bidders. One thing that I like to do is I like to go look at the previous weeks and see how much top receivers were being bid for. 15 to 20, might end up doing it. But man, oh man, Ron, man, I love Ron here. I do want to just cover any other waiver wire statuses real quick here. Again, I think the quarterbacks, if you guys need to grab someone, it's Purdy, Love, and Stroud. A-Chain's one of the best guys that you could pick up right now, but I just want to mention Roschon Johnson I don't know how, but Roschon Johnson is RB 24 right now. He has more points than Josh Jacobs, Jahmyr Gibbs, Dameon Pierce, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, David Montgomery, Nick Chubb. It's interesting. I think Roschon Johnson has slowly showed that he's going to be the guy going forward. His workload has increased each week. He had a career high in carries with 8, which I know it's not great, but it was a complete blowout. They're playing Denver this weekend. This might be the last weekend that you can grab Roschon for free, because we're probably going to be talking about Roschon Johnson on the waiver wire next week. He's only 33% rostered. There's a decent chance he's available in your 10-man league, maybe in your 12-man league. He's got a floor of about 6 points, which is not terrible. And you can see what happens when he does get the touchdown and the receiving workload. So I do think Roschon Johnson is a guy that I want to be I want to make sure you guys got him on your waiver wires, or he's not on your waiver wires. And then I thought Kendre Miller looked decently. He had 34 yards rushing and 1 catch. Obviously, Alvin Kamara is back next week, but I think with the future of the Saints offense going forward, I think it's going to be a 2-back system. I mean, the way they used Kendre and Tony Jones last week against the Packers, like, Tony Jones was the receiving back. That's what Alvin Kamara is going to do. So I think you're looking at a potential role here for Kendre Miller where he gets 8 to 10 carries per game, decent chance at a touchdown, maybe, we'll see. But he's a rookie that I'm willing to bet on and see what happens. So I do like stashing Roschon, Kendre. We've kind of talked about a lot of these guys here. If you can get Quentin Johnston on your team. Now, Josh Palmer, I'm comfortable putting in my starting lineup this week. Quentin Johnston, probably not yet. We haven't seen anything from QJ to suggest that he should be in our lineups yet. But we get a really good game this weekend against the Raiders, where if he plays well going into their bye week, they give him time to kind of, put some stuff on tape, watch it over the bye week. We might get excited about him week 6 and beyond. So I definitely think Quentin Johnston should not be on the waiver wires in any leagues. He's technically more talented than Josh Palmer. He's a first-round pick, So, like, we like his profile. We like his athleticism. I like him a lot. But again, like, the Chargers are kind of handling him a little bit slower than I would have liked for a first-round wide receiver. Like, Josh Palmer beat him for the wide receiver 3 job. So we'll watch for that. And then the other guy that I want to highlight here, and I'm kind of upset that I was not able to get him in my most important league, it is going to be Josh Downs. And I know he played with Gardner Minshew in week 3, but 8 for 57 and 12 targets. So he's a high target earner for Gardner Minshew. He did hit 5 and 7 targets. So like the floor is 6 to 7 points with Anthony Richardson. But if he can, keep growing here, you never know. They got good matchups against the Rams, the Titans, the Jags. Like these are decent matchups the next couple of weeks. So I'm kind of looking at Josh Downs as a guy, maybe add on my bench, see what happens. Harris says, what is your defensive pickup of the week? I mean, if you can get Kansas City, I know they're 69 point whatever % owned. I do like Kansas City. Basically, any team against the Jets, that's kind of who you want to be looking at. Otherwise, I mean, Tampa Bay, they're on the road against the Saints, but I think that's going to be low-scoring game. One thing that I love to look at here, let's go look at the DraftKings game lines. Honestly, I think this is probably one of my favorite tools for looking at defenses to stream. Now, we're talking about these are the teams that are going to score. This is who Vegas and DraftKings are projecting to score the fewest amount of points. So the Cardinals, the Jets, the Commanders, the Patriots, and the Raiders. So basically they're saying these teams are decent starts. The 49ers defense, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Chargers. So I don't hate the Chargers, especially because we don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play. So I think that's extremely interesting to me. What about Cincinnati or the Steelers? I mean, if you can get the Steelers, if the Steelers are out there, man, yeah, go pick up the Steelers. Like you can see right here, the Texans are only projected to score about 18.75 points. It's a low-scoring game. Steelers are a good one. And then I do like the Bengals defense, but where are they here? The Titans are projected to score 22. And it is in Tennessee, so I don't love it. Weird stuff kind of happens in some of those games here, so I would rather do the Steelers. But if you can get, Kansas City, Philadelphia, someone cuts Dallas, go pick up Dallas. Would you trade Joe Mixon for T. Higgins? I think so, especially if you're set at running back, man. Like this is a decent buy low opportunity for Higgins. He's had 2 duds out of 3 games here, but you saw what his ceiling was in week 2. Joe Mixon just doesn't look great, man. Just doesn't look great. I think I prefer T. Higgins long-term, especially if you need a wide receiver. I do want to just call out a couple more options here. Just more Chargers content for you guys. Like maybe the Chargers run more 2 tight end sets. So like take a peek at Gerald Everett. I don't hate him as a stash, on the bench. If anyone cuts Hunter Henry, he's a decent stash here. I love Jake Ferguson. I love Luke Musgrave. If you guys want to look, again, one of the best pieces of content that I have here on the website is the fantasy points allowed stats. And if you're looking for tight ends, these are your tight ends with the best matchups this weekend. So the way to read this is the Detroit Lions are allowing the most tight end points in fantasy football right now. They're going to play Green Bay. So Luke Musgrave is one of the best tight end plays on Thursday Night Football. The Eagles, they're playing Washington. Don't really know what the Commander situation is at tight end this weekend. Travis Kelce's in a smash spot. Evan Ingram's in a good spot. There's your Chargers tight ends against the Raiders here. That looks pretty good. Maybe Okonkwo, but I'm definitely liking Luke Musgrave this weekend. Should I stay with the Ravens, Harris says. Let's see. The Ravens... I got the Ravens in a tough matchup here. I got the Ravens projected to score about 20 points here, going up against the Cleveland Browns at Cleveland. I don't love it. Mixon in London for Higgins fair. It feels like we're overpaying just a little bit. I like this is just typically one of my go-to calculators, and I do use a handful of calculators before I look at at sending a trade here. Let's add London and Mixon here, and we'll add T Biggins to this side here. Redraft PPR 1 QB. Not quite sure what all the formatting is, but it looks like you're giving up too much here. They technically have Mixon for Higgins as a fair deal, which to me, I kind of agree with. They're both, kind of starting format pieces right now. So I think that's a little too much there to add on London. Should we be dropping Michael Gallup? Actually, I thought Michael Gallup kind of played all right. Week 3 here, I know the Cardinals kind of stymied the Cowboys offense, but 6 for 92 on 7 targets. I think Gallup is a hold. They have some tough matchups coming, up here, but if he continues to get, obviously if he's only getting 2 targets, I don't want that on my team, but if he can be around 7 targets per game, I think he's worth a hold. But he's not assessed. He's not like essential right now here. I do think he's a guy that could be left on the waiver wire, or Curtis Samuel. Samuel is still making plays. I think I might prefer Samuel over Gallup. 5, 3, and 4 targets, but he also gets carries, and he's been pretty productive with his touches. So like I would probably feel more comfortable starting Samuel over Gallup right now. B-Rob, fair for Pittman, or should I try for Amari or Devonta next? B-Rob, fair for Pittman. Personally, I love Michael Pittman Jr. If you can get Devonta Smith, I think that's the sexier play. I would probably rank them as Devonta, Pittman, Amari Cooper. But if you can get Pittman, man, I might click on that right away because he's been very, very attractive to start the year so far. But keep the questions coming, guys. I'll hang out for another minute or two. I just want to make sure I covered all my bases here. Players I just want to mention, like deep stashes. I don't know what's going on with the Ravens pass catchers. Odell Beckham's got the ankle. Rashad Bateman's questionable with, I think, a hamstring or something like that. Nelson Aguilar has been their second best receiver the last 2 games. Just keep an eye on Aguilar. I think Wan'Dale Robinson's a guy I want to keep an eye on in deeper leagues. Calvin Austin, another guy I want to keep an eye on in deeper leagues. Rashee Rice, he was like about this close from catching 2 touchdowns last weekend. He got tackled at like the 1 foot, 2 foot yard line twice against the Bears. Rashee Rice is looking pretty good. I also like Marvin Mims as a deep stash, Jaden Reed as a deep stash. Again, Tank Dell, Romeo Dobbs, these guys are must-add players. And then don't sleep on DJ Chark. I thought he looked really good in week 3 here. He does have a decent chemistry with Bryce Young. I think he's a guy that could be of use to us. What are you doing with Pirine? It looks pretty bad for Pirine. I think Harris, I'm probably dropping Pirine for Achane for sure. I'm dropping Pirine for Kendre Miller, for Roschon Johnson, for Charbonnet, for Gainwell. Pirine's looking pretty dusty right now. It looks pretty bad. So if you can upgrade him for one of these guys that we're looking at right now, I think I probably would do it. Basically, for Pirine to have startable value, we're going to need an injury to Javonte, which I hate saying. Now, I still like Pirine as a player, but it just seems like they have too many mouths to feed. You also have this third back named Jaleel McLaughlin, who they're using. Probably going to let Pirine go. What if I did Mixon and B-Rob Jr. for Pittman and T. Higgins? Yes. I love that. So you have good running back depth, man. I would do that. If you can get that trade, Gullies, I think we do it. I'll have Ramondre Cook and Rashad White as my running backs. I think if you could try and swap out Rashad White into this deal, it would be an absolute smash for me. Like if you can do White and B-Rob, like just offer it out there. If you can swap out Rashad White for one of these guys, I would absolutely smash it. But that seems pretty fair, man. Let's whip up that trade calc real quick. And this is just called Roto Trade. I don't know if you guys use it, but for me, it's just a quick way to kind of filter out something that should interest me versus something that shouldn't. Brian Robinson, and then you got Higgy and Pity. All right, let's just see what it does. Pretty decent value. Obviously, it likes your Higgins Pittman a little bit more, but it looks pretty good, man. Who should I drop? Akers or Pitts? Trying to pick up J-Love on waiver since Fields my only QB right now. Alex, I'm assuming you have a better tight end. So I'm fine with letting Pitts go. I would need to know who else you have at running back. I think I want to hold on to Akers, but if you already have 4 running backs ahead of him, maybe it's not worth holding on to him. But I would need to know who your running backs are and who your tight ends are, Alex. Could he be a trade sweetener? Pirine? I I don't know how sweet he is to somebody, but sure. Um, and then I do want to mention, like, I have a pretty good like vibe on like I kind of talked about at the beginning of the show of like being a week ahead on players. Like we want to add guys and see if we can get ahead on the waiver wire. That's guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Rico Dowdle, Latavius Murray, Sean Tucker, still the backup to Rashad White. I think Keontae Ingram's the running back behind James Conner. I think Trayvon Williams is the backup behind Mixon. If Julian McLaughlin, if there's an injury to Pirine or Javonte, he's going to open things up. But otherwise, like keep an eye on Trey Sermon and then Patrick Taylor for Green Bay. Should I drop Dotson for Dell or Palmer? You can if Ryan, if you want to put the claim in for both guys, I think I'd rather have Dell and Palmer over Dotson right now. Dotson's still really talented, but I'm going to take the volume offense of the Chargers, and I think straight up right now, Dell is the guy I want to play over Dotson. So with that being said, if I had to choose one, I want Dell because he looks like the number one receiver for the Texans. So if you had to, put these in claim order, I would drop Dotson for Dell first, and then I would drop Palmer I would drop Dotson for Palmer second. I think I might have messed that up, but prioritize both of those guys. But I would drop Dotson for both these guys right now. Alex says I have Jacobs, Stevenson, Pacheco, and Achane. Oh, okay. In that case, I probably would drop Akers. I don't know who your tight end is yet behind Kyle Pitts, but it feels like the Kyle Pitts game is going to come very, very soon. In terms of fantasy points allowed to the tight end, the Jags this weekend, they have allowed 15 for 145 and 2 touchdowns. That's about 13.83 points per game to the tight end position. So this could be a Kyle Pitts game, which I would hate for you to dump him and then feel, regrets for putting him out there. I do think it's going to take Cam Akers some time to get acclimated into the Vikings offense. So just short term, I think you hold on to Pitts, you let Cam Akers go. It seems like you got decent depth there at the running back position, so I think that's probably what I would do. But anyways, guys, I got room for maybe one or two more questions. Let me know if you guys have anything. Otherwise, tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening, we'll be doing the Start Sit Live show where if you guys want to come in with your Start Sit questions, we'll get you guys prepped for week number 4. Harris says, drop one. Pirine, Michael Gallup, or Curtis Samuel. PPR, I would pick up a receiver. Yeah, it's probably Pirine. It's probably Pirine. Just my only thing with Gallup is like Cooks has been a little injured. I still like Curtis Samuel a little bit. It does leave you with a lot of wide receivers. And if you're picking up a wide receiver, maybe it makes more sense to drop one of these guys. Honestly, I think none of these guys are really startable, Harris. So if you have depth at running back, I'm fine with just cutting Pirine off. No one's going to be rushing to the waiver wire to get him. So it's probably Pirine. Ron says, I have Treylon in Dynasty, and I have no idea what to do with him as he's collecting dust on my team. Would you by any chance trade him for Michael Wilson in a third with Kyler coming back? I think you got to hold on to Treylon Burks. I know Dynasty, like, it's frustrating when you can't use anything with him. I still like Michael Wilson, but you probably spent a late first-round pick on Treylon. I think it's too early to sell short. I do like Michael Wilson. I think the third round pick is kind of like, I mean, those are almost kind of irrelevant picks in a dynasty draft here. So I think you hold on to Treylon Burks. DeAndre Hopkins is, getting older and dinged up. So I think it's a matter of time maybe where Treylon Burks becomes the guy that you want in Tennessee. And potentially, man, like we might see Malik Willis. We might see Will Levis at some point. I'm not quite sure. But I think the outlook for Michael Wilson, he's probably not the alpha receiver there next year for Arizona. It might be Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think I hold on to Treylon Burks here, man. I wouldn't, if I'm trading away Burks, I need at least a second round pick in return and maybe plus a player. So I'm going to hold on to him, Ron. My other guy should be Kenneth Gainwell and Miller on my bench. Okay, so yeah, I think you're fine with those two guys on your bench, Harris. I mean, if there's other running, like, after the show, if you want to send me what running backs are still out there on the waiver wires, we can maybe chop one of those wide receivers, and pick up the receiver that you want, and then maybe we could upgrade P Ryan. But I definitely think churning and burning the bottom of your roster, like, there's got to be a better running back out there than P Ryan. So I would look into that. But hey, guys, we are going on the hour here, so we had a good show. I can't wait for Marvin Harrison Jr. Oh my God, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be so fun. Hopefully you guys if you guys have a dynasty first round pick, hopefully you get the first or second pick available, because Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a lot of fun. But that's going to do it for tonight's show, guys. Again, tomorrow night I will be live 7 p.m. Central Time. Come hang out with your start sit questions. Help you guys out with that. We'll go over I'm going to be going over my start sit charts. We're going to go over the player injury news and things like that. So we'll hang out tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Central Time. Good luck on your waivers, guys. We'll see you tomorrow night. Peace.